8 minutes past 6 o'clock. Now, police say they hope protesters intent on causing violence will reflect on the sentence handed to an 18-year-old who threw a fire extinguisher from the roof of Millbank Tower. Edward Woolard's been jailed for 32 months following the incident at an anti-tuition fees protest in November. The judge at Southwark Crown Court says he took into account the teenager's age and previous good character and the extraordinary conduct of his mother, who encouraged her son to come forward to the police. Peter Smythe, chair of the Police Federation, has been telling James Whale a message had to be sent. This sort of behaviour was unacceptable.
Well, as I understand, I don't know the young man, but I understand he's a man of previous good character. Hopefully he regrets what he's done and a lesson will be learned. What he did was incredibly dangerous. In my view, it's attempted murder. If that had hit anybody, it clearly would have killed them, I would imagine. So I think he can be considered a little bit lucky. But as I say, if the lesson is learned and it stops other people doing similar things, then fine.
Do you think he was charged with the right offence?
Well, I haven't seen the evidence, and I'm sure that the lawyers and the police officers who did came up to the charge as they thought befitting of the evidence. But on the bare bones of it, as we saw in the newspapers and on television, then to me that was attempted murder.
All right. If I could ask you about something completely different now. Police officers could take to the streets to protest, apparently amid fears that policing could return to the very bad days of the 1970s. According to the Police Federation today, Peter Smythe, do you have a comment on this?
I haven't heard that story. A couple of years ago, we did march through London in protest of the Home Secretary's decision regarding our pay. Were similar things to happen again? Would we march through the streets of London? Quite possibly, but I think we're some way off that at the moment. Well, clearly we can't take industrial action. We have to show our grievances some way, and that's one way of doing it.
This is according to Mr. Paul McKeever, chairman of the Federation, which represents rank-and-file officers in England and Wales. He said there would be at least 20,000 fewer officers within 4 years as a result of the government's spending cuts, and he says cuts of this scale could see police take to the streets in protest.
Well, yeah, I don't make Paul wrong at all. I mean, it's a massive issue for us. There are massive cuts coming and more in the pipeline. Clearly, I keep hearing people say they won't affect frontline services. Quite frankly, I say that's balderdash. You cannot make cuts of that magnitude without affecting frontline services. Where it comes to the stage where officers are put at risk and the public is put at risk because of these cuts, then quite clearly we would make our grievances known. And marching through the streets is one way of doing it. 20,000 police officers. We say that more police officers works. As police officer numbers have gone up, crime has gone down, and we say that's not unrelated. Reducing police officers could easily lead to escalation in crime and violence, and we say that's unacceptable.
So sometime this summer we could see marching policemen through the streets of the capital?
It's possible. I'm not aware of any plans to do it at the moment. Most of the cuts aren't even announced yet, the full scale of them. Certainly for my force in Metropolitan, the Mayor has said today that he intends to maintain police officer numbers at between 32 and 33,000, and we'd be very happy with that.
And if you found that that was not to be the case, then a march would not be out of the question?
If other police forces around the country are facing more severe cuts than we are, if they chose to march, it's a matter for the individual whether they decide to march with them, whether we're Metropolitan or otherwise. Certainly speaking personally for myself, if there was a march through London to protest against the cuts into policing, I would join it.
Do you think policemen should be given the right to strike in future?
We don't want the right to strike. All we ever asked for is a fair negotiating process with some sort of binding arbitration at the end. This government, when they were in opposition, promised us that. They haven't yet delivered it. We're still calling for them to do that. Binding arbitration would seem to me to be the obvious solution, and if we had that, that introduces an element of independence and fairness, and we wouldn't need industrial action.
Peter Smythe, chair of the Police Federation, speaking with James Whale there about the issue of government cuts to the police force. Also before that, talking about Edward Woolard. That's the man who's been jailed for 32 months today, who threw a fire extinguisher from the roof of Millbank Tower during the student protest. 13 minutes past 6 o'clock.